I'm sitting here in the truck and I've got to wait another hour and a half before I go to a medical procedure. I got to get a CT scan. So I got to kill some time, and they gave me these 2 bottles of H2O strawberry clear water. Couldn't, took it down, drank it, no problem, right? But inside are these isotopes. You couldn't see them, you can't taste them, but it's going to light all my system up, they say, for the CT scan. I was thinking about that, how you take these bottles and it looks like it's one thing, but it's really another. And sometimes things like that trigger my memories on trauma, because trauma, sometimes we carry a lot like that. We present really well, but nobody sees what's really going on inside. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we believe it too. We tend to believe we are what we see in the mirror, what we see on our projection. But the truth is, inside, we might not be that person. We might be only reacting in trauma response, or at least in half trauma response, or some trauma response. I call it trauma voice. That voice that says, you're negative, you're not good, you don't deserve things, I'm a horrible person. If they really knew me, they wouldn't like me. All these really negative self-valued things that really are a lie. They are a lie from trauma. Trauma tried to tell us these things when we were younger, so we would avoid pain. We would dodge the people hurting us, the environment that was hurting us. We would be able to at least somewhat control the impact. And we learn to present a certain way to survive our trauma. The problem is, we grew up at a point where we didn't realize that that's not who we were. The problem with trauma in childhood is you don't really ever get to know who you were going to be. And I know a lot of people spend a lot of time boo-hooing that. And it is sad, I agree. I don't know who I would have been had trauma not been part of my life. But I also don't know who I would have been if trauma wasn't part of my life. So I'm sure it would be great, right? That's what we all like to think. But maybe not. Maybe we would have had a much worse time. Maybe we would have made bad decisions and got us into trouble or killed us. We don't know. I'm not saying trauma made us better. I'm just saying trauma is what we have to accept, that it was our part of our life. But we do not have to accept that we are trauma. That's the important thing. Those trauma voices, those trauma thoughts, those trauma ideas do not have to be part of us. Well, I guess I'm going to take that back. They are part of us. We don't have to react to them. We can choose our behavior. We can choose our emotional identification. Yes, trauma is going to rear its ugly head. The voice is going to scream, you don't deserve that nice boat, even though you can afford it. No, you don't deserve that air fryer. That's a lazy way to cook. And them are all voices that aren't yours. Because your voice would say, hey, I've worked hard. I can afford this boat. I'm excited. Good things, happy feelings. No, I can afford and use an air fryer. It's okay. It's not a lazy way to cook. It's a healthy, good way to cook. We can make these choices. We have the freedom and the right to do it, but trauma voice is afraid. It still stays inside of us. It's still trying to protect us from these evils that are outside of us that we experienced. But we don't have to listen. We can say, you know what? I understand why you're there. I get you, trauma voice. I get it, what you did for me when I was younger. You got me through some hellish times. I get that. But the truth of the matter is, I'm an adult now. Those times are done. You need to be quiet. I respect what you did, but now I want to be me. So learning to use your voice is it's the way I describe overcoming trauma. Because when you don't use your voice, you don't believe in yourself, you don't trust yourself, you don't trust the world, none of these things are going to be natural. They're going to have to be cognitive. You're going to have to think about these things. How do I trust somebody? You choose to trust them slowly over time. How do I love somebody? Well, that's a different one, because you got to choose again to love, to be connected when you have trauma from childhood. So these are not natural processes because they were disrupted. Trauma voice disrupted these concepts. So I guess I'm just saying this morning, as I'm waiting to go to this medical thing to see what's going on inside, remember, what's going on inside may or may not be who you really are, but you get to choose that on the outside.